Some of you will probably know me from the work that I do on BBC. I have a show on BBC One. If you haven't seen it, I want you to know that that's deeply offensive to me. But it's been on BBC One for about 5 years now, and in that show I am a mind reader. But I promise you that is just sort of a hobby. It's watched by about 12 people every single week in Northern Ireland, which makes me kind of a big deal in Belfast. And in that show I sort of play the job of the role of a mind reader. But that was all inspired by my original work at university. I was a university lecturer and doctoral researcher with the University of Ulster for somewhere in the region of 7 to 10 years. I can't quite remember. But in that area, you might be surprised to know that my specialist area was the border, but specifically the border region of Ireland. And I carried out my doctoral research looking at the border area, and it was around about the very beginning and birth of the ICBAN plan. And truthfully, very embarrassingly, I've only just realised as you were standing there talking, Shane, I interviewed you 6 years ago, and I just remembered it sitting there. So some mind reader I am. But obviously you didn't remember it either, so I don't feel quite so bad. But it truly is a massive passion and interest area for me. I went to school in Newry. I was educated in Newry up until the age of about 20, and I run 2 businesses out of Newry. So it's an area that's so exceptionally close to my heart. But over and above that, that's why I was so pleased to be asked to join you all here today. But over and above that, my other field of expertise is in management and leadership, and working with organisations on how they can work more efficiently and more effectively. So I suppose I wanted to give you just a 5 or 6 minute chat on how some of those skills and techniques that I have in those areas might help you roll out what is an extraordinarily exciting strategy for your entire area. And I suppose just to contextualise this a little bit, this is my academic field of expertise. It looks at everything from decision making, motivation, behavioural change, change management, body language interpretation, which I already have started in this room and will be diagnosing all manner of fairly serious issues by the time my session's over, and goals and planning. These are soft skills. And by soft skills, I mean they are transferable. Every single one of these, if you learn or pick up or take anything away from today, you will be able to use it in your own organisation. But the one that I really want to focus on today is motivation. And I promise you, it isn't going to be one of these new age hug a tree or let's all be friends and work together. All of my presentations are based on science. And I'm going to give you 1 or 2 techniques today that you'll be able to use to help roll out this strategy and make serious fundamental impacts in your different areas. So I promise you, some of the stuff that I present to you will sound a little bit new age, but I promise you, for me, new age is only 1 letter away from sewage. So it isn't new age, I promise you. It is all based in science. And if you want the evidence for it, then please have a chat with me afterwards, and I'll send you all of the original papers. So obviously, we're here in the context of change. We talked about the moonwalking bear at the very beginning, and that change can make it really difficult for us to focus on the bigger picture, on what's important. But the real challenge is engaging the individuals. Not only you in the room, because let's face it, the fact that your bum is on a seat in this room means that you see the value of this programme already. And you are going to be real agents of implementation. But it can sometimes, and all the research shows, that most strategies fail at the implementation stage. Why is that the case? Because of engagement. Engagement is that little indefinable, impalpable, unmeasurable thing that you either have in your organisation or that you don't. So how do you achieve engagement? Well, first of all, I want to give you a little bit of research that I promise you is at the heart and the backbone of every ounce of engagement and motivation that exists in your organisation. I'm really lucky. I run a sort of consultancy business at the minute that has me travelling. I work with some of the biggest companies in the world. Work closely with Apple and Saatchi and Microsoft, although Microsoft doesn't know I work with Apple and Apple doesn't know I work with Microsoft. So if we could all keep that amongst ourselves. And I work with them on how to make their businesses better. And there's one thing that, one simple piece of research. Now, ordinarily, I would show you a video of this particular experiment, but because we're a little bit tight for time, I've only got 3 hours left with you. Because we're a little bit tight for time, I'll describe to you exactly how the piece of research works. And it's about how you can take yourself and individuals in your organisation and have them as agents of change, growth and development. And it's only through that the regional strategic framework will be the successful that we all know that it can be. And it's really simple. So I would play the video clip here, but we're a little bit tight for time. So I'll describe to you exactly what happens. It will be in my, if you want to see the video, it'll be in my new TV series on BBC One, Wednesday nights, 10:35. Sorry, it's like Tourette's, I can't help it. So here's how it works. We went back to the basketball court and we got two teams. One team was dressed in white, one team was dressed in black. And what we told them was, I'm looking at you to look at your natural capacity for basketball. And I'm doing quite a lot of scientific observations and studies. I filmed it on my iPhone. I told them I had an app that would tell me who amongst the group were the naturally brilliant basketball players. I watched them for about 60 seconds and I divided them up into the A team and the B team. The A team and the B team. The A team were told, you have the natural capacity for this. You're extraordinary. You've really got the talent and skill to do this. The B team were told, thank you very much for coming. And we will try something with you a little bit later, but really you're not quite suited for this. But thank you so much anyway. It would just be too much of an uphill struggle for you to do the actual experiment, but we will try something with you anyway. Now, what they don't realize is that was total nonsense and poppycock. That was entirely fictional. I can assure you I don't know anything about basketball. I can barely count how many passes they do in that first little video, and I've seen it 5 times a week for the last 4 years. So when dividing those people up, it was based entirely on randomness. But one team were told, this is going to be a piece of cake for you. This is going to be a walk in the park. You're going to sail through this. The other team were told that, do you know what, it's probably going to be fairly difficult. It's probably going to be fairly arduous. But you know what, give it your best shot anyway. And the impact on that team was extraordinary. In fact, we carried it out 30 times. And in every single one of those cases, we saw a massive change in the behavior. Whether we were told that this is going to be fantastic, you're made for this, or do you know what, this is going to be quite difficult. There's going to be a huge amount of challenges there. And we found on the first group that we did, I mean, I'll show you the data set now. I'll show you the entire data set. So basically, the first one that we did was Group B. These have been randomized for statistical purposes. Group G was the first one that we did, the one that was highlighted in red. I told one group that this is going to be easy, you're made for this. The other group, I'm sorry, you're going to find this fairly difficult. The change in performance was extraordinary, 163% change. Now that was the first one, and I'll come back to that in a second. The least impressive change in performance that we got was 30%. For what? It didn't cost a single penny. By just telling a group of individuals that you know that they can, will, must, or should, it dramatically improved their performance. But look at the rest of the data set as well. The least impressive one was nearly 30%. The rest of them, 46%, 50%, 77%, 50%, 54%. Again, there was no big clever motivational ploy here. There was no rewards. There was no incentive system. Just by telling individuals that you know that they can do it, it dramatically affected their performance. So the first one, the reason I wanted to come back to is, you can see that they're all somewhere between 20 and 60% there. That's where the mean is, where the average is. But the first one that I did was G, and there was 163. Could you imagine how I thought I was going to get the Nobel Prize? This was the first group, and it was 163% change in performance. What we didn't realize was one of the people on that team represented the UK and the Commonwealth in ball games. So obviously, I'm not quite as superhuman as I thought. So we've removed that one from the analysis. But look at the impact of that. Just by telling individuals that you can, will, might, or should do something, it dramatically affects their performance. And you know, every time I work with a new company that has a policy or a new strategy or a new framework coming in, there's always a huge amount of skepticism. And people start to tell themselves that, do you know, I'm not really sure if we've got the time to do this. I'm not really sure if we're going to be able to integrate this into, but you know, we'll give it a wee go anyway. We'll take a go at it. That comes out in every aspect of the way that you try to achieve that. And the science behind this is called idiomotion. Every thought that you have physiologically manifests in some way. If you think you can do something and it's going to make a real difference to the area, and you know that you're going to be an agent for that change, it dramatically affects the way that you perform. But the other side of the coin is, of course, true as well. One other example of this is, and you'll see this in the new series as well, Wednesday nights, 10:35, we got 100 students in a room from Queen's University. Well, I'm not allowed to, from a university in Belfast, and keep that to yourself. Nobody tweet that, please. And we got 100 students, and we told them about a lesser-known piece of research. And I'll race through this. Silver coins, some of you might know, their atoms sit in a straight line, which means there's very little gaps between them. Copper coins, however, their atoms sit in like a herringbone fashion, which means there are a lot more gaps. That's what makes silver coins harder to bend if you were to take pliers to it, or copper coins are much easier to bend because of those gaps. Now, if you hang a pendulum over a silver coin and don't interfere with it at all, don't move your hand, it will naturally find the line of those atoms and move in a straight line over the silver coin. But if you do it over a copper coin, because they're not all in the same direction, it will slowly start to move in a circle, because that confuses the atomic alignment. We got 100 students in the room and showed them 5 videos of when this was originally discovered in the 1950s. It was tested in various universities. We showed them all the videos, and then we got them to try it out. And every single one of them who hung a pendulum over the silver coin, it moved in a straight line. Every single one of them who hung it over the copper coin, it moved in a circle. And it was all very ordinary, and they weren't even particularly impressed by it. Then what we did was, I said, well, look, I don't want you to think that this is about suggestion, so let's cover the coins up with a card so you can't see them. Now remember, the coins are in a position, they know where the coins are anyway, but they cover them over, and in the position where they know the silver coin is, straight line. In the position where they know the copper coin is, it moves in a circle. So my director got them all over to the corner of the room and asked them, so what did you think of that? What they didn't realize was, that was entirely fictional. That's nonsense. I went to St. Coleman's in Newry. I don't know anything about physics. I haven't the first idea how atoms work. I made that all up entirely. It was entirely fictional, but they believed that it was real, and they were told it with such conviction that it came out in their behavior. And by the way, the 5 videos that I showed them of the original piece of research working and happening was actually me in 5 different jumpers with my head and my legs cut off. And we got the jumpers from Primark so that it looked like it was legitimately the 1950s when we filmed it. So we filmed that, we showed it to them. They absolutely, every single one of them, believed that it would work, and it came out in their behavior. Now, what they didn't realize was, when they were in the corner of the room, my team went in and swapped the coins around underneath the card. So they were in a different location underneath the card. I know, I'm so nasty. But while they were in the corner of the room, the director was asking them, so what did you think of that? And some people were saying, well, it's very interesting, it's very impressive. But some people were saying, well, actually, I'm very familiar with the phenomenon, actually, myself. I watched a documentary about this on Discovery. Entirely fictional, we made it up. But those people weren't lying. They were told it with such conviction that they believed that they probably had heard of it before. And it manifested in their behaviors. Then we had them all come back into position, and my director said, look, we didn't get a chance to shoot that quite well enough. Do you mind if we get a wide shot of everybody doing it at the same time? So they went and did it again, and in the position where they thought the silver coin was, of course, it moved in a straight line, and where they thought the copper coin was, it moved in a circle. Now, I can tell you, if any of you have ever worked in education as a teacher, few things are more delicious in life than getting one over on your students. And when we had them lift the cards, it blew their tiny minds. I think but the fact is that science, idiomotion, affects every single one of us in the way that we work. But it's at the backbone, in my opinion, of this strategy as well. Without that absolute fervid evangelical belief from all of you that this can fundamentally change the way that your region works, then it will never get off the ground. But I know, again, as I said, the fact that your bums are on the seats in this room means that you're already behind it. So I encourage you to use that technique in your own organizations to become agents for making this one of the most successful strategies and frameworks that has ever been. Look at the example that we have in Cork. Extraordinary results. We can, I'll be honest with you, Elmer, I think we can beat it up here as well. So don't take that personally. But I know that we can absolutely do it. So I'm a little bit tight on time, so I'm going to cut out a few bits that I intended to talk about. But there are a few final announcements that I wanted to make just before we finish up. I hope that you've taken something important away from any of the speakers that we've had today. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our speakers for the extraordinary work that they've done this morning. But I'm going to make a couple of closing remarks, but before I give them, please, I have a little list of people that need to stay behind today, that need to stay behind in this room for photographs. That is the representatives from Leitrim County Council, please stay in this room. The representatives from Cavan County Council, please stay here. The Cookstown and Dungannon representatives, Fermanagh District Council representatives, and also the Monaghan County Council representatives. Also, folks, I would ask you, inside your pack there is a feedback form in there. It is so important that you take a couple of minutes, 60 seconds will more than cover it, to fill out that feedback form for us. Let us know what you found useful about this event, and because this isn't just a one-day thing, the ICBAN programme has got a very long tail on it, and we want your feedback throughout this process so that we can deliver as much value for you as humanly possible. So I've already thanked our speakers. I'd like to thank all of you for turning up and participating so fervently in the proceedings. It really does mean a great deal to ICBAN and all of the stakeholders involved. I'd also like to thank the fantastic Sleeve Russell. Isn't this a lovely hotel? And they've been wonderful to us. They have been really wonderful to us here, so we appreciate that. I'd also like to thank the staff of ICBAN who, for both through the short, medium and long term, getting towards today, have done properly extraordinary work on bringing this event together, but also bringing the entire framework together. Their work is truly invaluable. But I'd like to, if I may, if no one minds, to single out a couple, Colin and Roisin, who have been so closely involved in this. And there is no greater measure of how much work they've put into it that I've received emails from them at both 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night over the last few weeks, which shows me just how much commitment that they have in making sure that this framework is as valuable for you as it is for the region and for them. So that is it, folks. Please make sure that you fill out your feedback forms. All of our speakers will be around for questions, so please do take an opportunity to share and collaborate with them. And of course, if you have any questions for me or any of the ICBAN team, please do approach us. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. Lunch will be served through the doors outside. Please do stay behind if you're one of the groups that I mentioned. But apart from that, ladies and gentlemen, have a safe trip home and enjoy the rest of your day.